morning, Liz. How are you?
Morning, Dan. Good. How are you?
Good. This is Careers and Coffee number 10, I believe. I don't know if you ever thought we'd make it to double digits, but here we are, still going.
We have crossed the threshold.
Well, they say the average podcast, I think, makes it to 8 episodes. So,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
It was on pins and needles if we would actually make it past 8. And now we're here at 10. So I think we're here to stay.
we made it. We made it. And I got coffee going. I know it's a little blurred out.
Yeah. Iced coffee here today.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I know lately we've been talking a lot about like opportunities in our area and also, job searching. But today we wanted to actually touch on something we went over in Career Week back in March and talk a little bit about a step before that. So actually just finding out, who you are as a person and what your tendencies are and how to find opportunities based on, that are going to fit you.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about a book that I came across. This was like 10 years ago. And the first thing that they talked about in that book is just having the skill and ability to do a job. So do you want to touch on maybe what some of those skills or abilities might be that a person would have?
Sure. So everybody's got their own natural tendencies, right? Like, so if you are very analytical by nature, that is a tendency, and it could be potentially a skill in a role. Like if, like Dan, in your case, your analysis is key to your role here at the Gazette. So an analytical nature, or if you're not analytical, that's fine too, because like whatever it is that you're good at is something that you need to pay attention to. So if you're very creative, or if you have great communication skills, those are all key to determining, okay, how can I use these skills to find a role that would actually utilize them as strengths, and put them to work. And that way, hopefully you will feel much more satisfied by that role because you're using things that you are confident in, and have a capability of growing them even more and sharpening them.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I think about those skills and abilities, definitely you mentioned my analytical ability. That's something that's innate to me, right? And so you mentioned communication. Now the other thing, so it's kind of a little bit of a marriage, right? So you got to have not only the ability to do something, you have to have you have to find also an environment, like a work environment that fits your needs, right? So
Okay.
could you maybe touch on what some different work environments are that people might be interested in working in?
Yes. So when you think about the working environment right now, for many office workers, it might look like their house. And that may or may not be ideal for you, depending on the distractions and just the workspace, and then how much you're interacting with other people. And a lot of companies are doing their return to work protocols right now, and I know Gazette, we're in the process of building that. We're not back yet, but we will be at some point this fall. And so when you think about that, like what kind of space is most conducive to you being productive? So for instance, like if you're a developer or like a web, I think I always think about web developers for some reason, because that's our team. We work with a lot of digital tools. They like to be in a quiet space with not a lot of interaction, not a lot of distraction, so that they can focus and get to work. And for me, sometimes that works really well too, but I also really thrive when I'm interacting with others and having conversations, having the opportunity to overhear things happening in the office that might make me think about, oh, that's a great idea, I should try that. Like I need some of that interaction in order to continue to be creative and productive. And so when you think about yourself, you think about, what environment do I do best in? And it can really depend on the job. So I'm kind of focused on office jobs, and that is definitely not the only job. One, I never thought as a kid I would have an office job. I always thought I would be an outdoors type of person that would have an outdoor job. And there are plenty of those out there. I mean, lots of from landscaping to maintenance to scientific jobs where you're doing water testing and things like that. There are a lot of different roles that allow you to be outdoors. Could be working at a golf course, So if you really thrive in that type of environment, you should consider, okay, what kind of roles would allow me to be in that kind of environment? And, obviously you're going to consider other things like pay and salary and all that, but environment is a key thing because it's something you face every day. And so it can affect your satisfaction for a long time if you don't do well in a cubicle and you have to live there for most of your life, through most of your work life, you can be very unsatisfying. So
Yeah, absolutely. That was really good. You hit on a lot of things there, and covered a wide variety of jobs. So the third thing that we're going to marry up here is just your values and passions, really. So Liz, I'd like to hear from you, maybe what some of your passions are, or maybe what somebody that's trying to figure out what a good job fit for them might be. What are some dreams or passions that people might have?
okay, I wasn't necessarily prepared for this question.
Well, you already talked about one of mine, right? So golf is one of mine.
Yeah.
I love digital business and online marketing. So when I think about a job, I've worked in the golf industry for 6 or 7 years before I now work in kind of a digital
Yeah.
marketing and business role. So when I think about some things that I just like to go do by myself, I always have loved to golf or be in recreation. But then I had a tendency to always want to try to sell things online or work in digital business, right? So kind of side hustle and sell things on eBay, Amazon, those type of things. So
Mhm.
those are very just natural like passions of mine, and things that I gravitate towards. And so I think that's really the third leg of marrying up like what a good job fit is going to be, right? So
Mhm.
you got to have the ability to do it, whether you're communicating or being a developer. It has to be a good work environment, and then you also have to have some sort of passion or a little bit of interest, right, to
Yeah.
be able to do the job.
Yeah, I'm laughing because I recently watched a TED Talk that was like how to find your life purpose in like 5 questions. and, and I'm looking because I did the exercise and I'm looking at my phone because I wrote it down. And it was basically like, what do you like to do? Who do you do it for? Why do you do it? You kind of wrap that into a sentence. And mine was basically, it focused on, I like to use creativity to solve problems. I mean, growing up, I was always into art and music and things like that. But really, underneath all of those passions was an interest in creativity and expression. And though, and especially if over time, if you shift gears from like one career path to another, like if I went, because I went from music to marketing, and that was a really tough choice for me because I'm like, oh, my failure as a musician because I can't do it. It's like, no, you're just gravitating towards something else that you're interested in, and you're going to use those same creative skills. And when I first took a director position, well, a manager position with a team, I thought about how much I liked playing in an orchestra and how playing in an orchestra prepared me well to manage a team or work in a team because we're all playing different things and they have to marry together and we have to kind of follow direction in order to produce a result that is something that anyone wants to listen to. So that's really hard too. And there are a lot of people out there that may have started one path and then they shifted another path and then they look back in that previous path and they feel a lot of guilt and shame that they didn't potentially make it in that
Mm-hmm.
role, right?
Mm-hmm.
But life is a journey, right? Like everything is a journey, and it's not. You shouldn't feel shame for moving on from something over time because you have changed through that process and you are not the same person that you were when you started that person because you've grown. Hopefully you've grown.
And learn more about yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're having like really basic, not any deep thoughts this morning on careers and coffee.
Just
Who am
talking about
I? Why am I
just a lot
here?
about life. Yeah, right.
You don't know how long you're going to get. So,
That's right. That's absolutely right. Um, well, that's all I had. I know those were very in-depth questions, very in-depth life questions today on careers and coffee. Did you have anything else you wanted to add, Liz, before
yeah,
we take off
I'm
for
going
the
to
day?
share my screen here. So we have some resources for you. So if you want to pose these deep questions to yourself and you're thinking, I have no idea where to start, we have some resources for you. So Dan crafted this great worksheet that we can, let me pull that up, that you can download from, and we'll put these in the show notes. So I'll share this with you. This is your skills, natural tendencies, and passions. It just kind of gives you some room to work, you know, and to try to determine, okay, these are some skills I have, and just kind of narking them down, and you know, understanding your natural tendencies. And so you kind of do a simple basic disc profile. And then you kind of work it into a kind of a storyline, which you can kind of understand. If money was an issue, what would you spend your time doing? And you know, after a couple days on the beach, you probably would do
Right.
something productive, right? So, and I love this one. What did you enjoy as a child, but maybe didn't think was realistic career path? Because there are so many things that didn't exist when I was a kid. Like the internet wasn't a thing when I was a kid. I mean, it was sort of a thing, like with the DARPA program, you know, but it wasn't like, you know, my kids don't understand that I didn't spend my days watching YouTube videos because YouTube didn't exist. The second one is this FutureReady Iowa. I love to use this resource a lot. There's some really great tools in here. And this is called the Emsi assessment. It's cool because you could be like, go deep dive 60 questions, or you could do 6 questions. So if you don't want to probe deep into your own psyche and question everything, start with a 6-question questionnaire. It's just a quick start. And you know, they say don't worry about if you have enough education or how much money you would make. They just let's just ask some questions. Like don't skip ahead, right? And it's really great because it just talks about like what you like to do. Do you do hands-on work and play outside, like I was talking about earlier? Use your physical athletic abilities. And you can say unsure. And you just go through this process, and you just kind of like the 6 kind of, you know, 5 answers, whether you're unsure, if you strongly agree, and that'll give you a quick assessment of what might be a good path for you. And then if you want to come back, you can do more. And they also have a great resume builder. They'll connect you with education and training. And there's a ton of resources that we've talked about before in Careers and Coffee, educational resources that are free or low cost to people who want to work in certain industries. So don't worry about what it's going to cost you to get the skills you need, or any of that stuff. Let's just determine what you want to do, because maybe you have everything you need already.
Mm-hmm.
And you
And
don't need additional things.
yeah, absolutely. And that was FutureReady Iowa, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
what was the website? Do you have it? I know we'll link to it in our show notes.
Yes, it's iowa.emsicc.com. And from there, you'll be able to find the assessment.
Great. Okay, very cool. Yeah, that's a great resource. I know I've done that a few times, and generally it always comes back the same. So it reassures me that I know that
You're in the
I
right
know
spot.
myself.
Yeah.
But you know, depending on how you're feeling on a certain day, you might get slightly different answers, which is
Yeah.
fine. So, all right, that's going to do it for us then.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you next week.
See you next week. Bye.